haven't done it yet.
And hi, and welcome to Ask the Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Corey Rodnick from Midland, Michigan, and we're so happy to be here today. I have Dr. Tony Rodnick.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for
Midland,
having me.
Michigan, chiropractor extraordinaire, as well as Dr. Slusher, who's
morning.
also an incredible chiropractor from the Clare County area. Yes, indeed. So, Tony, who's been practicing now a year and a half, you're our newest doc out. How's that feeling?
Feels good.
Yeah? And Dr. Slusher, who's been around for a long time now.
Next month will be 10 years.
10 years. Is that quick or what?
Yep.
When you look at the relativity of time, it just poof.
Yep.
You were here one moment, and the next moment, bam, chiropractor. Incredible. So how's it being a chiropractor?
It's awesome. That's the word, awesome.
Because you
It's
make
a lot
such
of fun.
a difference in people's lives, and it's great to see how people change.
Tell me about your favorite moment this week. Can you think of one? Or the last couple weeks, because I know you were out of town. So.
Oh, within the last couple weeks? Boy, there's so
Favorite
many.
Case. Your
Favorite case? I guess I would say it was a child's case, and it was someone who came in the office who had double ear infection, upper respiratory, that had turned into walking pneumonia. They were debating, the parents were debating on whether or not to take the child into the hospital to get him on breathing treatments and all this crazy stuff. And just from an Atlas adjustment, just from removing that subluxation, they called me the next day to tell me that this kid was breathing better and that the doctor was amazed, and it was awesome. So
Those are very cool.
yeah, just a little toddler. So
Those are always very cool. Very cool. I remember the first time that happened to me, it was like...
I mean, the mom was crying because she didn't have to do all these medications with the child, and she was just like, I don't understand this. Why doesn't he need all these different medications? And so I had to explain to her.
This one was sick for months, and it was like the third bout of antibiotics. And same thing. One adjustment that night, totally normal. Next day, totally normal. Holy molios. It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
There's been a lot of strep throat and bronchial stuff that's been going around, and that's these parents are not informed and they don't know what to do, and then we just do what we typically do.
It's amazing that if your atlas is, let's do the reverse of this. So if your atlas is out, what does that do to your resistance?
Lowers it
The
immensely.
atlas is the top bone in the neck we're talking about. And so if the top bone in the neck goes out of place, what does that do to your resistance?
If that top bone goes out of place, it can affect anything in your body because the spinal cord starts there, and if it pinches anywhere, it can affect anything. So resistance goes down, but other body functions go down also.
They found the actual brain stem runs right through that. It's like it's actually part of the brain, the spinal cord, but also the actual brain part that communicates, like you said, to everything is like unbelievable. That little tiny movement, how much of a difference that makes. You know what? Let's take a quick look at me here. See, my hands are making a circle. So if I move the top bone out of place, just a little, you see how that changes the whole size? Just that little bit will change the whole circumference of the center of the hole. So if your brain is up here and it's running down here into the cord, just that little bit of movement decreases the size of the canal significantly and lowers resistance. So today our big topic is whiplash. So does that affect that top bone we were just discussing?
Absolutely.
Okay, the middle of your neck.
Yeah, C5, C6 going down into your shoulders and arms a lot of times from the whiplash.
And this is actually a result of the actual topic is deer accidents in Michigan. So we're going to talk about that. So I looked up this morning the deer accidents. You got to go back a little bit because it takes a while to report everything. So
Right.
I don't have 2014's numbers, but I have 13. And the number you would think, a deer getting hit by a car or a car getting hit by a deer, depending how you look at it. How many of those are occurring in our state, the state of Michigan?
That are reported.
Reported.
Yeah.
Not the drunk guy in the truck running over deer, but that was terrible. Okay, so Yeah, reported though, because a lot of times they're not reported.
If there's not a lot of damage
Not a
to
lot
the
of
car.
damage,
And
yes.
people don't realize that they have whiplash and have been affected by it.
I've been one who hit a deer. You were in the car with us.
We knew we hit that deer.
Definitely, definitely. Man, that deer, what an idiot deer. It like ran into my car. It saw me. I thought, like a human would have hopefully stopped, but no, the deer said, run to the light, and it ran into my car.
Yeah.
So anyway, and we'll talk about that later. So the number for 2013 deer accidents in Michigan is
Da-da-da-da.
49,000.
Wow.
49,000 cars had a collision with a deer.
And that's only what's reported. So imagine how many more that were not reported.
With an average damage of $3,800 or something like that.
Wow.
$3,800 per car.
And if there's more people in the car than one, how many people are affected by this?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Anyway, so what does that do to a neck? I know what it did to my neck. So first of all, I was driving. I was in Skidway Lake, Ogama County, which is like off I-75, exit 202.
An hour north of us.
About an hour, yes, away from Midland. And I was warned that there's a lot of deer out before I left somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, right. Because I'm from Detroit area. And to me, I don't remember seeing deer until like I was much, much older going up north or something, because I never saw that. I wasn't a deer hunter. And anyway, so I went, So I'm driving home, and this deer is off to the side of the car, and it's staring at me. I see the deer. And then he takes off into the road, and I say, oh my God, the deer's actually going to hit me. And then I started to swerve away, which I'm told is a very bad idea. Mm-hmm. And then at the last minute, I said, I'm not going to swerve away and get hurt from this stupid deer. I'm going to hit it. So I turned back into the deer, and the deer went boom, right off way up in the air. Maybe
It rolled over the car.
it went flying in the air. It hit, there was pieces of deer across the top of the car, and pieces of deer in the front. There was deer everywhere. And then it ran away. Get this. It ran into the woods. And I kept driving, not knowing what to do after a deer accident. And I get down to the gas station. I go, my God, I hit a deer. What do I do? So then I said, let's call the police. So I called the police, and he said, yeah, you stop where you hit the deer and you call us. I said, well, I wasn't aware of the procedure at this time. So anyway, I got whiplashed totally. She did not. And this person sitting behind me, I had 4 children, 5 at that time, didn't we?
5.
5 kids. So the one in the front didn't get whiplashed, and just a little bit. And then the ones to the right side of the car, the kids, none of them got whiplashed. But then in the middle, a little whiplash, and then behind me was severely whiplashed. Like, it was different where we were sitting in the car. So the forces that causing the whiplash were different where were in the car. Anyway, I found that interesting. So, and it was several $1,000s worth of damage, like probably about $5 grand.
That was a big car, too.
Yeah, that was a big car. About $5 grand in damages, plus me getting whiplash, which took like 6 months to get back to normal.
Right.
Which was very unhappy. And I was very mad at deer after that. So I was always an anti-gun person for deer hunting. And I turned into kill them all. Kill them all. God, there's no room for deer. And then I went to the center and I said, why don't we have like 12-foot fences to stop these deer? Well, then you're interfering with their normal pathway.
Migration.
What's that?
Their migration.
Their migration pathways. Mm-hmm. Dun, dun, dun. That got me nowhere. I said, interesting. And they said, I said, to build a fence, you take the criminals, give them a job, let them work. Building giant fences across the highways. I thought it was brilliant. apparently not doable. But,
So are the deer accidents more in the fall or the summer or the winter?
well, there's quite a few deer accidents. Their migration that they were talking about, they actually are breeding at that point. So the buck's chasing the does, and one buck can handle a whole lot of doe. Okay?
Isn't
and we're
it,
not talking
isn't it
money.
also because of hunting season they're spooked and running out of the woods?
There's also that with the hunting season and the spooking, but I didn't realize this, but a lot of it is more from they're chasing the buck is chasing the does around.
You can see it in the back of our office all the time. So yeah.
Woof. Woof. So it's a lot of deer accidenting, and the amount is mind-boggling. 49,000, not 4,900 cars smashed. 49,000 cars smashed. So at 38 to 4, let's figure $4,000 worth of damage each times 50,000 cars. How much money is that? I said, that's going to pay for the fences. I said, I bet you they'd be willing to just, boom, let's get some fences. Right? And free labor from the Michigan Department of Free Labor Board.
Those are the ones that are reported. So all the ones that aren't reported, they still go through the same type of maneuver. They still get whiplash, but they just don't report it. They don't report the fact that they've hit a deer and they think they're okay. And there's people that come in the office later that thought they were okay, and it gets progressively worse as time goes on. So that's why we look at the x-rays and show them to a patient, show them what kind of damage they've done to themselves.
So what happens to the body when you get a whiplash?
That's a great question. Let's talk about it. So I have a very fancy pointer,
Use your pointer
here.
There you go.
So, so first of all, a body in motion stays in motion until hit by another force, correct? That's not me. I think that's Newton.
Yeah.
Some guy named Newton.
That'd be some physics, yes.
So so first what happens is the body moves forward, and then this part usually gets stopped by a steering wheel or something else like a seat belt, but the head doesn't. The head keeps going forward. So what happens is it tears in the back of all these bones, these neck bones, the little squares here, is a ligament. There's a ligament in the front of it, there's a ligament in the back of it, and then there's all these muscles across here, plus ligamentum flavum's back there, so there's also ligaments there as well. So if we bend forward that much, it tears the muscles and the ligaments.
Because it's not just bending forward, it's thrown forward.
So it's tearing those. Then the next thing, because it finally goes down, here's the whip part. It comes backwards. So then it's tearing in the front. You can see where this arrow is here. It's now tearing the front of the those ligaments that are holding this part.
And all this takes seconds to happen.
Oh, like that. It's over. It's so fast. Like when you see the in the slow motion photography videos, and we've shown those here on the show, where the head just goes flying forward and flying back in real time compared to the slowed down time, you don't even see it. It's like so fast. And you know, it's interesting. A lot of times I'll say, were your glasses found? If they were wearing glasses, did it stay on your head, or did it find it somewhere else? A lot of times it'll be in the back window.
Yep.
In the back window of the car. And so think about just flinging your head backwards to make your glasses go flying to the back.
And how much force it takes to do that.
It's got to be unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, you can't just do it regular. So, again, you're seeing this again, the whiplash is all part of this. So this is an artery coming through here, the vertebral artery. And you have, this is the anterior longitudinal ligament across the front of these bones, the posterior longitudinal ligament. And then there's ligaments that are attached to everything here, muscles, ligaments, and they're all tearing. Here they're showing it's tearing where the disc is.
So you could actually damage the disc too when you're doing this?
Oh, very common. Very, very common. As a matter of fact, it's at this point, I actually expect it. You know, when I'm taking an x-ray on somebody, I expect it to be there because of what happened. Especially when they say my shoulder hurts or my hand hurts or any of that. I immediately look for that because these are the nerves exiting these particular vertebra. These nerves go right into your arm and hands and fingers. So very common mistake to think that you're just fine and leaving it there.
So do the bones unalign too? Get unaligned?
They do. And a lot of times they'll be like a reverse curve. Instead of the normal C-shaped curve, you get a straightening of the curve or an actual reversal of the curve. And when it's straight, it's degenerating at 2 to 4 times the normal rate. And when it's reversed, it's degenerating now at 4 to 6 times the normal rate. And
So even if you don't have symptoms now, because of this degeneration, you
Right.
might get symptoms in years in the future that are a result of this accident.
a year later would be 6 years later. 2 years later, it would be 12 years later.
As far as degeneration.
As far as
the-
degeneration
So when you,
occurs.
yeah, when you look inside the body, you see a lot more broken
Correct.
down
Aging, yeah.
faster, a lot more damage.
Now, what a lot of people, let's keep going here yet, but you can see here afterwards, if you can see down here, I don't know if you might have to move your foot there a little. Can this be seen at this point? Should I pull this out more? Can that be seen? Camera people? Yeah? No one's answering.
We got it.
Oh, okay. So you can see here at the end, the normal curve is now gone. It should be a C-shaped curve here. And you can see here where the ligament has been ripped. Very common. And as a matter of fact, I see a lot of times there'll be a calcification years later after the whiplash. You might have some calcification where this ligament healed and there might be like a little ball of calcium back there. Sometimes you'll see a snapped off cervical vertebra at the end of the spinous process, those bumps you feel in the back of your neck. Sometimes it'll snap one of those off too. I see that maybe a couple % of the time. You know, a little bone will snap off the end here. But again, when it's been there for a while, I could see usually there'll be like a calcium ball stuck inside there. When it was bleeding and it healed the damage, the calcium gets in there. And then you can see here the front of it. This is a torn anterior longitudinal ligament. And very, very common. As a matter of fact, if you, when the bone
want the
moves
spine?
forward, it'll be harder to show on this.
Oh.
But here, let me go back to that. So this is the normal curve in the neck right here. I don't know if you can get that. But see how it's like, if you drew a line here, you see it's kind of like a smooth line. And in the back of it, it's even better. Is another smooth line in the back here. But after a whiplash, see, then it goes like this. And it's a straight curve or reverse curve. So these ligaments have been damaged, but you don't see that on the x-ray. But you can see the spaces that would have. So you can definitely see it there. But the sometimes the bone will actually move forward and one will move back a little dribble. So that means there's like little pins in there. They call them the joints of Luschka. Those have been snapped off. And this bone moving forward like that, that means that you've torn the ligaments that are holding this in here. And sometimes I'll see it, sometimes, you know, like maybe a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch forward. That means you've torn all those ligaments. For that to have happened, those have had to have been damaged to some degree, either stretched beyond their normal capabilities and tearing occurs, and then they wonder, you know, why it happened. Now, sometimes you feel that pain right in the beginning, and sometimes it might take a few weeks, a month, before you even notice this pain. You might be on an adrenaline rush for many days. You know, sometimes they don't even feel anything. So they think they're okay. A simple x-ray shows this, though. Very obvious. And when it looks like that, you go, uh-oh.
So can you work on it while those ligaments are still torn?
Oh, absolutely. That's the best time to do it because you want those ligaments to heal back in the normal position.
And that'll stop the degeneration?
Oh, definitely. Yay. Yay for that. Well, just like a tire in your car. You know, if it's misaligned, it's going to wear a lot faster. And if you line it back up, you know, it stops the degeneration process. And then if you go ahead and, you know, put some more rubber on that thing, retread the tire, it's like brand new. Never knew it even happened.
And as long as it's aligned with the car, then the tires wear evenly. That's right.
So remember that muscles take about 2 weeks to heal. Tendons take 4 to 6 weeks to heal. Ligaments takes months to years to heal. So it might take 6 months to a year and a half. You know, so that needs to be corrected. You know, I know I've testified in court, it must be maybe 50 times just on that. It's more than that, 50 plus. Okay, just on that because, you know, you think, well, it's a muscle thing, should go away in a couple weeks. But this isn't muscle. This is ligaments. Ligaments take a lot longer to heal.
And most of the time when people come in to get this treated too, they've had this a while. They usually are, right,
Yeah,
they're usually not coming in an acute stage. I mean, some people do, but most people.
Well, what happens is if you leave it out like this and then you don't fix it, and then you work on it like a year later, 6 months later, what happens is it's already been healing in this position.
Right.
So now you have to fight that, plus line it up, plus let it heal. So you've added a whole other feature to a whiplash is scar tissue and healing the structure in the wrong place. Same thing like if you broke your finger in half and you leave it there and it heals. Well, now you have to like go re-break it in order to line it back up. Here we're not re-breaking it, but we're having the more like orthodontia work. It's a lot more difficult.
Right.
It's affecting the motion too. Just like the body wants to stabilize it. Just like when you're using a shovel a lot, you start getting calluses to try to protect your hands. Well, it's moving irregularly, and the body's trying to protect itself and stabilize the disc, and you get these extra bony growths, these osteophytes or spurs, and those are degenerating too and affecting the healing process later on once you realign it.
It's very true. Unbelievable how this whole thing, you know, it takes off years off your life too, your lifespan, you know, because of that degeneration occurring. So you lose quite a bit of lifespan.
And then as the disc degenerating get thinner, that also affects if the hole between the bone where the nerves comes out is affected by the space between the disc and it gets thinner, then the hole's going to be compromised too. And so it's going to start pinching different nerves as the disc degenerate.
So other things arise too.
Yeah.
So I'm going all the way back to the beginning when I said, what was your favorite thing you saw in the office? I can't get it out of my head. I was working on this guy came in all bent over, all degenerated, and very arthritic. And I started working on him, and you know, he went from a little old man look to not perfect yet, but you know, almost. You know, he gained many inches, and I just think that was a very cool thing, because it was like impossible to fix, really.
We had a case like that. He came in literally with a blown back because he blew a disc out at L5 in the low back and literally could not lift his head. So he would literally be hunched completely over in an arc.
That's what this guy was.
Looking at the ground, and in a 5-week, 6-week time period, he said that it was the most amazing feeling to be able to see from looking down to looking straight ahead because he was able to stand upright. And he said it was the first time that he stood upright in almost 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. It's unbelievable. So when he would come in the office, you know, his wife would sign him in because he couldn't, the desk was too high, you know. And when he came in that day, I'll never forget the fact that he was able to sign himself in. And that was unbelievable for him because it was the first time that he had been upright like that. I mean, and he wasn't completely straight up, but, you know, up enough that instead of your world being down here, now at least you're looking almost level.
So these whiplash
Unbelievable.
injuries, that's what we're getting at, is if you leave it there, you'll end up looking down, you'll end up bent over, you'll end up like that. And then as it develops, it starts to cause the vertebra to actually start fusing together and in a degenerative fashion. So it usually starts at the low back, works its way up, and then they have a word for it and everything. And it keeps going, and it's a gradual total fusion. So once it's totally fused, it's like, how do you correct it? You can't. It's like gone. You can't do anything.
Just possibly stop it from
on
getting
this
worse.
gentleman, it was just, I just caught it before the whole thing fused. It was just the last moment. There was this like last chance kind of thing. I was like really lucky that we just got to it, and I just think that's just so cool, because I don't think there's anything that anyone has to fix that at this point. You know, it's like to reverse something like that is pretty spectacular.
Right.
Yeah, I was impressed. Anyway, it isn't the first time. We've known doctors who had that. Now that I'm looking back, I remember a doctor had that. He ended up dying from it too at the end. I was adjusting him pretty regular, and he was doing better and better. And then he moved away, and then he died like 6 months later. Holy cow! Because you can't breathe after a while.
Well, it's affecting your function for your organs.
That's called ankylosing spondylitis.
You should show the other chart on the other side of you, where you can show the fact that not only are we talking about the ligaments and tendons and muscles and tissues, we're also talking about the nerve and how the nerve goes to those different organs.
So usually it'll start down here in the low back. So you'll have low back pain, you'll have bowel stuff is the next deal. Then later on it goes into the stomach area. It'll start degenerating up here, goes to the stomach areas, but that's what kills you when it gets to the lungs up here. This is what kills you, because you can't breathe. You just can't get your normal breathing in. So
you're not rejuvenating the organs because you've got pinched nerves in there, and you're not getting the circulation to those areas.
And usually they die at night when they're sleeping from the lung thing. Just to stop breathing. Whoops. But yikes, huh? What a way to go. Pretty torturous. Imagine significantly painful. Significantly painful. So you're going to be on a lot of meds here. A lot of these people would be on massive meds. Because what do you get for someone who can't get up in the morning because they're so miserable? And that whole miserable thing.
And it fatigues them as well.
Oh, totally.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
you're very exhausted when you're in pain like that.
Ouch. Anyway, so let's talk about the other area you get whiplash. So the other area is in the low back. Your low back also goes through the same thing, where it's going forward, and a lot of times now again we have a new disease. It's called seatbelt fracture.
Chance fracture. That's what they call it.
Okay.
We don't get them as much these days because of the shoulder belt too. Initially, the seatbelt fractures when we just had the seatbelts.
Right. I remember seeing a lot of that when it first was a law that you had to wear a seatbelt. All of a sudden, I had all these lumbar fractures down there, seatbelt fractures, or you call it?
Chance fracture.
Chance. Mm-hmm. Okay. See, I'm old school. I don't have that one in my head. Okay, so it's the, chance, like it was a chance instead of seatbelt fracture. Staying off the seatbelt people, getting off the interfere. I guess they didn't like that term. They must not like it when I say that.
I think it's the person who diagnosed the first fracture and, you know, over the fact of a seatbelt doing it.
See, mine was very simple.
That was his name.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it was a person's name. It's not by chance.
I think it was his name. Yes.
Ah, okay. Because for
it's been a long time since I've been in school.
For me, it was like this. What did this? Well, the seatbelt did it.
Right.
That's a seatbelt fracture. Okay. That's how ours came about.
Yeah.
And and again, that fracture usually is not the problem. It's the misalignments that's the problem, not the chance fracture, not the seatbelt fracture. Those fractures are more insignificant than anything else there. I see compression fractures too with that, and pretty actually common if you get hit pretty hard, and pretty common. Sometimes it's on bigger people where they don't see it right away because you can't quite, you know, the bigger you get on an x-ray, the difference between the density of the bone and the density of the muscle is what you see.
Right.
And if the density of the muscle and skin and blah, 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 is the same as the bone, there's no difference. You can't see anything. So on some of these like really big people, they don't even catch those a lot of times. You know, but we send them in for an MRI, and years ago they didn't have MRIs that would hold a big person. Now it's pretty common, so it's changed that. But
you can also get side whiplash too. I think we should mention that as well because you know, your head can go sideways depending on where you're at in the vehicle.
And depending on how the vehicle's
And
hit.
yeah, and I had a very, very severe side whiplash years back in 2003 when I had my car accident, and it can do damage on the sides, on the ligaments on the sides, and it's very important to mention that as well because not everybody's head is going to go, you know, in the same motion. So, and you can also do it to your low back as well. So.
And those are generally much worse, the side whiplashes. So
Definitely wasn't fun.
and it seems like when you brace yourself, so you want to try to relax, stay calm. If you see it coming, try to relax. That's almost impossible, but try to relax before the impact. And that goes for any fall, any time. You want to be relaxed. That's why a lot of times in these car accidents, you have a whole busload of people, a full car of people, and the drunk driver is the only one who survives, you know, because he's just totally relaxed. And, you know, everyone's total fatalities, and this guy just gets out of the car, walks out unharmed. So obviously there's something to that relaxation, you know, that I think that is notable. I think that it says, you know, when you're driving with deer, you want to, you know, if nobody's in front of you, put your brights on. If you see a deer coming at you, do not try to swerve away. Be aware that, you know, like the deer season is here. It's now. People are out right now baiting the deer, so that's stirring them up a little. And again, it's that time for them to procreate. And so we just don't want deer messes everywhere. And again, some guys go, hey, I'm taking the thing out. Let's see if I can't get a deer. So those are the weird ones up there.
In my territory, yeah.
I'm like, oh, my God. And the amount is staggering. Staggering.
Just go opening day and drive through Clare and just see what you can see. It's unbelievable. There's a deer
I
on
was going to say,
everybody's
that's just
car.
in Michigan.
Yeah.
That's just in Michigan.
Yeah.
What is that number? We have to calculate that. If someone can calculate that. So we've got 50,000 accidents with 4,000 damage. Is that?
2 million.
I think it's bigger than that. Is it? Is it 2 million or 20 million?
Yeah, it might be 20 million.
I'm relying on this brain here.
Brain.
You got 4 zeros in 49,000, 50,000. You got 3 zeros in 4,000. So then you're going to have 20 plus 7 zeros. So 200 million.
200 million. $200 million. I'm still going for the fence. Let's put a fence up. Heck with the deer. I don't care about their migration.
I don't think they like your fence idea. Just saying.
The DNR will stop this. But we have fences. What are those, to keep people out? What are the fences for on the highways?
I think some of them are to keep the noise out of the neighborhood.
Yes, there's that. How about keeping the deer out? You know, on an expressway. Just, you know, some go this way, some go that way.
There's a lot of expressways.
And so the DNR would have to, like, plant deer somewhere.
I would think that mostly the accidents would not be on the expressway because there's not wooded areas and stuff near the expressway.
I don't know. I see a lot of dead deer on the expressway.
Yeah, I don't know the
But
stats.
here's something interesting, though. How many deaths occurred then? Only like 12. Like a dozen deaths. Out of 49,000 car accidents, only 12 people died. And out of that, I think it was like 6 or 7 of them were on motorcycles.
Wow. Motorcycle versus deer. Not going to be as great as car versus deer. So.
Yeah, car
There you
versus
go.
deer wins usually.
But the important part to note is when you said don't swerve away. And people don't understand that because they think they're avoiding an accident by swerving away from hitting this deer.
Oof.
If anything, you really want to hit it at a higher impact so that you can do less damage.
So I look at it like I used to play pool, if anyone's ever played pool. And when you hit the ball and you hit the side of it, it sends the other piece going, boink, like that. But if you hit it dead on, you can actually make that ball jump.
Right.
Poof.
And your ball can stop.
And your ball can stop dead and stop, and all the impact goes to the deer. I mean, that's what I did when I hit that thing. I said, oh my God, if I hit it sideways, because I was just thinking pool.
If you hit it sideways, one of the kids would have got severely injured, I'm sure.
I was vectoring it with a pool table. I saw the pool table and said, if I hit this like that and this thing's coming at me and I hit it, it's going to send me flying out into the woods. I'm going to hit a tree.
Yeah.
Well, this way I sent it flying into the woods. Boy, did it go flying. It was way in the air. It went from, it hit here, then it hit the top of the windshield and up and out. It must have been it had to be about 14 feet in the air, I think. Something right in there. 10, 12, 14 feet, I'm imagining. It went flying. And then it stops and walked in and ran into the woods. I'm like, wow, that's a durable deer. Anyway, I don't know if it lived. Obviously, somebody said it probably died out in the woods. But so the wolves were eating good tonight. And, man, it's about 100, I'm thinking 20-pound. This is a big, big deer. Big doe. It was a big doe.
And you're an experienced driver. There's a lot of unexperienced drivers out there, too. Inexperienced drivers don't know what to do in that kind of impact or don't know what they should do. So, it's important that you learned that you're supposed to stay there and call the police, not leave. So, that being number one.
Easier these days now that everybody has cell phones.
Yeah,
I
now
don't
with
think we had cell
phones.
phones back then.
Probably
No,
not.
we definitely didn't.
No.
Well, if we did have one, it was this big.
I didn't even have them until I was like graduating high school. So
I had an early cell phone. It came with battery and a phone, like a real phone. Anyway,
with a cord inside your car. Yeah.
but enough Star Trek. Star Trek made those cell phones much smaller with the flip ups, and that's so funny. It came from a movie. Anyway, yep. So be careful out there with the deer, and if you do have an accident, do go in, get a picture, see what configuration your neck is. If you go to the hospital, I mean, if you need sewing up or something, definitely go to the hospital. If you broke something, definitely go to the hospital. After that, though, do get checked out by a chiropractor because they're going to be the only ones really looking for that. On some of the x-rays I get from the hospital, sometimes they talk about the loss of lordosis, they call it, which is the whiplash, loss of curve, the normal curve in your neck. And sometimes they talk about it. I'd say maybe 1 out of 5. They generally don't.
But what's interesting to me is most of those people come in with a disc from going to the hospital,
Right.
where they were released.
Yes.
And the first words out of their mouth are,
There's nothing wrong with
"There's
me."
nothing wrong with me. They told me I'm fine.
Told
That
you
I'm
fine.
going to be sore, and that I should take some painkillers to, help with the soreness." And that's what, 9 out of every 10 people that walk in the door,
Say
that's what
that.
they're saying.
That's what they get.
And then we look at this and we go, "No, this is not
They
right."
should be told, there's nothing that's going to require immediate care today.
Right, emergency medical care.
Nothing
Right.
for emergency medical
Right.
because so they're done.
Right.
See, if it's emergency medical, that's did you have a brain bleed?
Right.
Did you fracture something that is endangering the cord?
Did you rupture your spleen?
Did you rupture a spleen? That's a beautiful one.
Well, that's why it's our job to, tell them there is a difference between emergency medical care and corrective care. And what we're talking about doing is taking them out of that emergency situation and putting them into a corrective care and fixing this before it becomes a more
Right.
permanent problem.
So when they say there's nothing wrong with them, they should be saying, we don't have anything that's an emergency that's left.
But there's
here.
long-term effects that are there.
There are things
Right.
wrong. They shouldn't say there's nothing wrong.
Right.
Because even just think about this. If there's nothing wrong, why would you need pain meds?
Right.
You know, they load them up with all these pain meds. Well, obviously there's something wrong. Of course they're going to be sore. You tore muscles, ligaments, and tendons. So anyway, so that would probably be a much better way to leave the hospital.
It's their interpretation too on what is said, but
Right.
you know, the basic thing is that we know in emergency medical care that they're looking for specific things, and what we're looking at is we're looking at the long-term effects of what this is going to do, you know, over time, and just losing that little bit of curve, and what is it doing, and how is it affecting the body.
I was just thinking about an example. Might be, you know, a woman with a heel and you knock the heel off.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an emergency? No, but could have devastating effects after a while. Missing a heel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to throw your whole body out. So that's what's going on here.
Right.
This is going to throw your whole body out.
Right.
Can't just leave it like, well, you can leave it like that. And again, you're going to probably expire a little sooner than if you were lined up better in comparison. You know. And this also goes, by the way, it's football season out there. And the chiropractors are out there with the sports guys. And I know this is Michigan, and we really don't want to talk about the Detroit Lions. But at this point, we're all very frustrated. But some of my friends were down there, and they're talking to them about, you know, whiplash. And every time they take a concussion like that, of forces that goes, you know, when you hit somebody with that kind of force. And these are very big and powerful, strong, healthy individuals who are just getting hit over and over, and the head gets bobbled back and forth, and you can see it, you know, bouncing off the ground. And because when they show the slow motion, they were looking at the ball, you know, did it fumble? Before with the Lions, it's definitely a fumble. So, you know, did it fumble? I'm watching their head, though. The head goes, you know, boom, boom, you know, it's going back and forth on the thing. And then he gets up, he shakes himself up like he doesn't know where he is, because the brain inside is also like a maraca. You know, it's hitting both walls. So you're hitting the brain, you're hitting the, you know, it's pretty traumatic. And,
but how do they not have that kind of damage inside their body then years later? Is because they get adjusted. They get that taken care of immediately.
That's what the chiropractor was telling them. And
Yeah.
it was funny, you know, hearing it from the football players now are getting that.
All,
So
all the
they're
NFL teams have a team chiropractor.
like after they
Yes.
take a good hit, they go and they get adjusted.
Right.
And then, you know, yeah, it's just smart.
Literally, with our car accident that happened back years ago, we literally got out of the hospital because, of course, we had to go to the hospital. And we literally called up a chiropractor for emergency care that evening and got our first adjustment, you know, post-accident, same day. And the long-term effects of that were just unbelievable, because he told me on average, you know, I was a chiropractic student at the time, and he told me on average I would have probably had at least 18 more months time frame of not having a curve in my neck had I not gotten adjustment the way we did. So it was unbelievable to you know, go and get that treatment right away. And you know, the long-term effects, I only had a headache for a couple days versus, and my head went through a window, through the window. So that's a very severe side whiplash. So, you know, a lot
I
less
hate when that
effects.
happens.
Yeah, a lot less effects versus what could have happened. So, yeah.
Wow. I just had a whiplash like a few days ago myself. And we were in a boat out in St. Martin when we hit a storm. I should say hit a wave, but we hit a storm. And boy, that boat, we hit that wave, it was about a 5-footer. And I don't think he saw it at all. And he just hit that thing. And whoo, and I went flying in the air. And then I landed on a post. And I went flying in the air again. I landed on my wife, Tony. Thank you for that soft landing, because I don't know what would have happened. I couldn't breathe for a few minutes. I couldn't get up, and she's underneath me.
Now I can say no problem. When it first happened, I thought, uh-oh, I broke some bones. I thought I broke my elbow and my knee. And
Boy, oh boy.
And you were supposed to be vacationing.
This was vacationing. I was so sore. Couldn't
Yeah.
move the next day. I was like, oh, well, I couldn't move that whole day and the next day. And getting home, it's like suitcases. I'm supposed to like lift suitcases. I can't hardly breathe. And oh my God. Boy, that's a special thing. Breaking ribs. That's
Yeah.
just terrific.
that wasn't from the whiplash. That was from the landing.
But I imagine I haven't even looked at my neck yet. I mean, I've been adjusted. You adjusted me a couple times. I'm thinking
You
Yeah.
need a neck x-ray.
I'm going to need a neck x-ray before
right.
this is over.
Yes.
The thoracic x-ray didn't look good either. So it's hard to like move right now. You know, like my normal moving, I'm moving less because of that. Temporarily. Yeah.
Could have been way worse, though.
It was yeah. Well, we could have drowned.
Yeah.
That whole let's wait till a shark kills
But
us.
but what I'm saying is if you hadn't been adjusted, the effects now could be
way
even
worse. Oh my God, it'd be way worse. It
Right.
would have taken me so much longer.
So when people ask the question, I've just been in an accident, what should I do? Go get checked right away.
Here's the funny one.
Get checked right away.
I was told to wait till the pain went down a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. It's like having a broken arm. It's like, well, I was waiting for the pain to go away, and then I was going to have it checked. Like, what does that mean? Now you're going to have to break it again. You're going to have to, oh my God. So here's a person waiting for the pain to, settle down. I'm like, oh my God. That's okay. It's more money for me, I guess. As a business decision, it's terrific. Wait for the pain to go down,
Yeah.
But as a physical, oh my God, what a bad idea.
Right.
Just takes, you're adding months from weeks to months. Like for each week you wait, you've added months and months, maybe a year of care because you waited. Whoops. And
Took off a year and a half of getting my curve back quicker just because I went in right away.
I remember
That's crazy.
I remember testifying, many times now. I said about 50 of it before, but it was more than that. But I remember specifically talking about, like, somebody will get whiplash, and they waited, like, months. And then now I'm working on it, and it's taking years.
Right.
They're saying, look, they weren't even that hurt. The hospital, they got the thing. You're fine. Just take the pain meds. 6 months later, they go, we can't take them anymore because our kidneys are failing. So then they come in, and I'm like, it's going to take years to fix this. Years. But each month will be better than the month before is the goal I always look for on that. And if you're a little better than the month before, that's better than being worse than the month before.
Right.
Because that's what you've been doing. Each month getting worse. They come in crying, I don't know what to do, my life's over, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm very sorry about that. And, but you got to take care of it, that's all. And at that point, then the insurance doesn't want to pay, and so there's a big fight, and those almost always go to court. And I thank God, knock on wood, I've never lost one of those. I've never lost one of those cases. Had quite a few of those, just... It's terrible, but yeah. And not all chiropractors know how to deal with that. It's its own specialty kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, not a specialty, but it is a specialty, but not in the way they call a specialty in Michigan. You're not allowed to say it's a specialty, but chiropractic itself is like a specialty almost. And then we divide it into the different things. Some people work on old people, young people, whiplashes, different things, pregnant women. Those are all like subcategories of our profession.
Some people only just adjust the neck.
Correct.
They don't adjust anywhere else.
Yes, that's a technique. Different techniques. And there's several hundred techniques in chiropractic. And my goal is just to be great at every one of them, but I'm short on like 3 of them out of 200 or something like that. But I'm pretty great at, I try to master each one. It's like you've heard of a master in Taekwondo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, different ones, box. You could be, way up there in all these different forms of things, and that's what I try to do. Keeps it interesting. Anyway, we've only got a couple minutes left. Our topic today out there has been whiplash, deer accidents in Michigan. It's 49,000 car accidents from deer alone, just deer accidents reported in the state of Michigan. The number's got to be way higher than that, but we don't ever hear about it. You have anything else you want to add to that?
I think you pretty much hit on it.
Awareness. If you're in an area where there's deers, pay attention. Try to. The best way to avoid an accident is not even to get near it.
When I saw that deer, I could have slowed down, stopped, let it run across the street. Instead, I kept driving. I'm looking at the deer. It's just standing there. I saw it. I have eagle eyes. I could see it way off. And I'm looking at this deer. At that time, I had eagle eyes. Now I got old fart eyes. But anyway, I got to trade him in for a new set. So anyway, the deer was just there, and I'm looking at him, and then I see him take off into the road towards me. I'm like, what are you nuts? Like the moth that runs into the fire. I'm like, incredible. Like, wrong way, bud. And never thought I'd hit that thing. And then at the last minute, I'm trying to get away from it. And at the last minute, I swerved right into it because I couldn't get away from it. It was going to hit me sideways. And woof. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. So, yes, be careful, awareness. And, to believe that this is helping, some little whistle thing, doesn't necessarily mean that works. Don't rely on that only. If you have all these different gadgets, so don't rely on that only because they don't always work. That's definite. They've definitely proven that one. Okay, so we're going to go back to exercising. We haven't done that for a couple of shows.
But we will.
Not me, Mr. Broken Ribs. Sorry, guys. Broken ribs today, but I'll be better for the next show.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see you next month at Ask the Chiropractor. And remember this, God gave you the gift of life, and what you do with that life is your gift back to God. So go out there and perform, have a great life, enjoy, be happy, and we'll see you next month. And we're going to go to the exercises, and Dr. Roddick signing off.
Welcome back to Ask the Chiropractor. We're going to talk about spinal hygiene exercises. We were talking about whiplash today, and some of these exercises will help strengthen the muscles and try to get the curve back in your neck. The first one we're going to do is, we call it the eagle. You're going to stand with your feet shoulder width apart, tighten your core muscles, and as you breathe in, you're going to bring your arms up and tip your head back. So you're going to breathe in, and then just stretch up, open up all the joints in your back, and just reach up. And then breathe out. We're going to do this 2 or 3 times, and we're going to do it 2 or 3 times a day. We call it spinal hygiene, so we say do it when you do your dental hygiene. One more time for that one. Just stretch up, and then relax. The second one, you're going to start the same way, feet shoulder width apart, tighten your core, and you're going to bring your arms up and make backward circles with your shoulders. And as you do, you want to focus on the space between your shoulder blades. And then you can tip to the side. And we like everything to be symmetrical, so if you tip to one side, you want to tip to the other side. This kind of offsets, we're always hunching over with computers, and we're tightening the front muscles and stretching the back muscles. Here we're tightening the back muscles, stretching the front muscles. Then the third one, and this is the one that will help with that whiplash injury, you want to clasp your hands together and put it behind your head, but you're not going to push with your hands, you're going to push with your head. So you're going to take a deep breath in, and bring your head straight back. Not tipped up and back, just straight back. So what we're doing is then breathe out and relax. And breathe in again and push back with your head. We're strengthening the muscles in the back of the neck and trying to get curve in that neck. And then relax. One more time. And relax. And those are the basic, we call them the posture pod, the 3 basic exercises in the spinal hygiene series. And we can go into other exercises later, but we're going to just start with that one, help offset your whiplash injuries. And like I said before, the way to best avoid the whiplash is don't get in the accident in the first place. Then you don't have to heal the whiplash. Do you have anything else to tell us?
No.
It's been a pleasure. He hasn't ripped me, but we'll see you next month. So let's do this. We'll just